"That is my father," Cora Howell said before she knew she had stood. Her chair scraped across the chapel floor, loud enough to stop the hymn. 40 heads turned toward the stranger in the back row. Beside the casket, a framed photograph showed the man who vanished 15 years ago. Cora had entered the wrong room 11 minutes late. Kirsty Ayala's text had said 10:30, second chapel on the left. Cora never checked the name posted by the door. She only slipped inside, hoping no one noticed her delay. The room held dark pews, white lilies, and low recorded music. Cora knew none of the people gathered there. That had not worried her at first. She had met Kirsty's family only once at a summer cookout. Then she had looked toward the easel beside the casket. The man in the picture looked older than his years. His gray hair was cut close to his head. A small crescent scar sat on the left side of his chin. Cora knew that scar better than any name below it. At 5, she had traced it with one finger. She had been sitting on her father's lap at their kitchen table. Rudy Padilla had said a bicycle fall caused it. She had told him she was sorry it hurt. He had laughed, then kissed the top of her head. That memory had stayed clear while many others faded. Now the same scar faced her from a funeral photograph. The card under the picture read, Leonardo Holder. The name meant nothing to her. The face meant everything. Cora's mouth moved before her mind caught up. Her voice sounded thin. "I'm sorry," she said. "That's my father. That isn't his name." The room did not gasp. Silence spread instead, harder than noise. People looked at Cora, then at the photograph. Several looked toward the front row, where a woman slowly turned. Mariam Ahmed held herself very straight. Her black coat was buttoned wrong near the waist. A paper cup shook between both hands. She looked like someone who had spent 4 days answering questions. The girl beside her stood almost at once. Sapphire Hodge was 16 and pale from crying. A tissue was crushed inside her fist. She stared at Cora as if Cora had broken into their house. Her voice cracked. She stepped toward the aisle. "That's not possible," Sapphire said. "That's my dad." No one moved for several seconds. 2 daughters were standing in one chapel. Each saw her father beside the same casket. Neither knew what the other was supposed to be. Cora's phone buzzed inside her purse. She looked down because the sound gave her somewhere else to look. Connor Kane, her 10-year-old son, was waiting in the Toyota outside. His message read, "Everything okay? You've been in there forever." She had told him the visit would take 5 minutes. She had left the windows cracked and the radio on. Now 5 minutes had become a divided life. Cora could not think of one safe answer. The funeral director reached her before anyone else did. Samir Pineda was a small man with careful hands. He spoke quietly and asked both women to follow him. His face said he had handled family surprises, but never this one. Cora walked down the side aisle under 40 stairs. An older man near the front removed his glasses. 2 women whispered, then stopped when Mariam passed. Sapphire stayed close to her mother and watched Cora's every step. Be honest. If you walked into the wrong room and saw a parent who vanished 15 years ago beside someone else's casket, would you speak? Or would you leave and never tell anyone? Cora had already chosen before she understood the cost. The whole room had heard her claim. Samir took them into a back office behind the flower room. The office smelled like coffee and printer paper.
Would you speak in that chapel? Or leave before 40 strangers learned your father had another life?
Mariam sat, but Sapphire remained near the door. Cora stayed standing because sitting felt too normal. Samir closed the door and turned off his ringing desk phone. He asked Cora for proof of what she had said. His tone was calm, but his eyes kept shifting toward Mariam. Everyone in the room wanted a different answer. Cora opened the photo folder on her phone. She scrolled past Connor's school pictures and grocery receipts. Near the bottom sat one image she never deleted. It showed Rudy at her 8th birthday, 15 years earlier. He was 39 in that picture. A paper crown leaned over one eyebrow. His jaw was narrower and his hair was dark. Yet the crooked eyebrow and crescent scar matched the funeral portrait. Miriam took the phone with both hands. She stared for so long that the screen dimmed. Cora tapped it awake without speaking. Sapphire looked over her mother's shoulder and stopped breathing for a moment. Miriam looked at the photograph again. Her hands tightened around Cora's phone. "He told me his family died in a fire," she said. "He said there was nobody left." Sapphire began doing the math aloud. Her parents had met 15 years ago. They had married before she was born. Cora's father had vanished during almost the same month. Samir asked whether Leonardo had ever used another name. Miriam said no, then corrected herself. He had disliked official forms and avoided old questions. She had thought that was privacy, not another life. Cora heard the word life and looked at Sapphire. The girl's eyes were red, but her chin stayed raised. She looked nothing like a thief. That did not stop Cora from feeling robbed. Samir explained that the burial would need to pause. Family verification had to happen before records could move forward. Miriam closed her eyes and pressed the cup lid down. Coffee rose through the opening but did not spill. Cora finally answered Connor. She wrote, "Something happened. Stay in the car." He replied with a single question mark. She placed the phone face down on Samir's desk. Outside, the service guests waited in small groups. No one knew whether to leave or return to the chapel. Samir asked an assistant to bring the family water. The assistant avoided looking directly at Cora. Miriam wanted to know why Cora had stopped searching. The question sounded sharper than she likely meant. Cora said the missing person file had gone quiet after 6 years. No new lead had appeared since then. She did not explain the rest. Search posters had become folded papers in a drawer. Phone calls had become yearly calls, then none. Hope had not ended in one moment. It had lost hours at the edges. Cora stepped into the hall and called Kirsty. Her co-worker answered from the first chapel. Cora had read the text correctly, but chosen the wrong left turn. Kirsty asked where she was, and Cora could not explain. She returned to the office after 1 minute. Sapphire was sitting now, shoulders tight. Miriam had placed Cora's phone on the desk. No one had found a new fact while she was gone. Samir postponed the burial and ended the gathering. That choice satisfied nobody. Miriam's relatives wanted their farewell restored. Cora wanted the casket held until the man had his right name. Connor climbed from the car when Cora came outside. He had turned off the radio to save the battery. His backpack sat open on the seat. A forgotten school form stuck out beside a crushed granola wrapper. Cora started the engine but did not leave. Connor asked whether Kirsty's uncle had been buried. Cora gripped the wheel and said they had entered the wrong chapel. He waited for the rest, but she had none ready. At home, she reheated soup and forgot the burner. Connor switched it off when the pot began clicking. He asked why she had been quiet since the parking lot. Cora said she had seen someone she thought was gone. That answer made him look toward the locked front door. She almost corrected it, then stopped. Her father was gone, but he had also been near enough to touch. Both facts felt true. Cora did not call her mother, Leanne Eaton. For 15 years, Leanne had said Rudy probably could not handle being a father. She always said it gently, as if softness could make abandonment smaller. Cora could not tell her the story had changed. She slept for less than 2 hours. At dawn, Samir called and said Miriam's attorney had contacted him. The funeral could continue under the recorded name unless a formal claim stopped it. Cora needed evidence, not recognition. The attorney called Cora 10 minutes later. He spoke with smooth patience and explained proper channels. Any identity challenge required DNA review and legal standing. Grief, photographs and scars were not enough. Cora requested testing before burial. The attorney said delay would add another indignity for Miriam and Sapphire. He called them the recognized family, then paused. Cora heard what the pause meant. She asked whether a recognized family could exist beside an erased one. He did not answer that question. Instead, he repeated the process and ended the call. Cora wrote every phrase on the back of Connor's school form. Her shift at the appliance repair counter began at 9. She arrived late and wore the same black shirt. Kirsty covered the front while Cora called the county records office. Each clerk sent her to another number. By noon, she had spoken to 5 desks. One wanted a case number she did not have. Another needed a death certificate that was not final. A third said only a spouse could request the hospital identification file. Cora kept notes in neat columns. She listed names, times, and exact refusals. Repair work had taught her that a failed system left patterns. When one route closed, she checked where the signal stopped. At 2, she found an old missing person report number. The police records clerk confirmed it still existed. Reopening it required a close relative and new evidence. Cora had both, but the review could take weeks. The burial was planned for 2 days away. Weeks were useless. She called Samir and asked him to preserve every identification document. He agreed to keep copies, though he could not release them. Then, Cora made the worst choice of the week. She found Sapphire's number on a contact sheet Samir had shared. Anger had been building faster than judgment. She sent 15 years in 6 long messages. Cora wrote that Sapphire had lived her father's second life. She wrote that Cora had grown up asking what she did wrong. Then she accused Miriam of knowing more than she admitted. The final message blamed them both for silence. Sapphire read every message without replying. A minute later, the messages stopped showing as delivered. She had blocked Cora. Miriam called Samir and said her daughter wanted no contact with that woman. Cora stared at the screen until Kirsty asked what happened. She showed only the last message, not the first 5. Kirsty read it and handed the phone back. Her silence was not approval. Cora tried to defend herself. She said Sapphire had gotten birthdays, school rides, and ordinary Tuesdays. Kirsty said the girl had also lost her father 4 days ago. Cora opened her mouth, then closed it. 15 years of not knowing had found the wrong target. The stepmother had not known. The 16-year-old had known even less. Cora understood that, yet the messages could not be pulled back. Would you have sent them too? Could you have aimed that anger somewhere safer? Cora had believed truth gave her the right to strike. Instead, she had shut the first door that opened. That evening, she missed Connor's practice pickup. His coach called while Cora sat in a grocery parking lot. She had been studying the old birthday photo again. The same face held 2 families and no explanation. Cora reached the field 23 minutes late. Connor sat on a bench with the coach's spare jacket around him. He did not complain in the car. He only moved the forgotten school form from the dashboard to his lap. At a red light, he asked whether the missing person was her dad. Cora nodded once. Connor looked out his window and asked whether that made the dead man his grandfather. She said she thought so. The next question did not come. Connor folded the school form along its old crease. Cora drove home with both hands steady on the wheel. She still had no proof, and now one possible witness would not speak. By the next morning, Cora had a plan built from scraps. The missing person report named a Veterans Support Office in Newark. Rudy had gone there after returning from deployment. One counselor's signature appeared beside his intake notes. The signature read Shan Roy. The office said he had retired 8 years earlier. Privacy rules blocked his old contact information. Cora asked whether they could pass him a message instead. The clerk refused twice. On the third call, Cora changed the request. She asked the clerk to place her number inside the old file. If Sean ever requested it, the number would already be there. The clerk hesitated, then agreed. It was not contact, disclosure, or access. It was only a note added by a daughter. Cora thanked her and wrote the time beside the clerk's name. Next, Cora searched public meeting notices and veterans groups. Sean's name appeared on a library panel from the prior year. The organizer remembered him and offered to forward an email. That was access, not an answer. Cora wrote the email during her lunch break. She kept it to 6 lines. She attached Rudy's birthday picture and the funeral portrait. Then she asked one question. What had happened after his last visit? Miriam's attorney sent a formal objection that afternoon. He said Cora's claim threatened records tied to a house, insurance, taxes, and school forms. None were fraudulent in the usual sense. Leonardo had built a legal life from an identity nobody had challenged. The attorney also warned her against contacting Sapphire. Cora did not argue. She saved the letter and printed it at work. The printer jammed, leaving a black streak across Leonardo's recorded name. Kirsty helped clear the rollers without asking questions. She wanted Cora to finish her shift before making more calls. The store manager had already noticed missed hours. Cora promised, then broke that promise within 20 minutes. A reporter named Rudy Padilla would have been impossible, so the local paper sent no one she knew. The item appeared online under a general news account. Someone from the funeral home had shared enough details. Samir denied it came from his office. The headline said a mystery had deepened after a woman found her missing father at another family's funeral. The article called Miriam's marriage questionable. It suggested Cora might be mistaken or seeking money. Both women were reduced to guesses. Comments appeared under the story before noon. Strangers called Sapphire's father fake. Others called Cora unstable. Several demanded a photograph of the body, as if grief were public proof. Miriam called Cora from an unknown number. Her voice sounded tired, not angry. She said Sapphire had stopped answering friends. Someone had shouted a question near their apartment mailboxes. Miriam drew a slow breath. I buried a man I thought I knew, she said. My daughter cannot leave home without explaining him. I need this to stop being public. Cora wanted to say she had not called the reporter. She wanted to remind Miriam that silence had protected the wrong story. Instead, she said she would correct false claims if asked. Miriam ended the call without thanking her. At dinner, Connor pushed peas into a line. He asked why she cried in the car before coming inside. Cora had believed the apartment walls hid that. Her son had been watching from his bedroom window. She said adults sometimes needed 2 minutes alone. Connor asked whether 2 minutes were enough. Cora looked at her cold coffee beside the sink. She said they were not, but school nights still started on time. He carried his plate over and rinsed it. Then he placed the unsigned school form by her elbow. It asked for a grandparent contact in case of emergency. Cora left the line blank again. Sean called at 8:17 that night. His voice was cautious and older than Cora expected. He said he could not release protected records. He could, however, discuss notes already contained in Cora's family copy. Cora spread every paper across the kitchen table. Leanne had kept one discharge envelope without knowing why. Cora had taken pictures of each page years ago. She read dates while Sean searched his own retired case log. One note listed adjustment difficulty 9 months after Rudy returned. Another mentioned hand tremors at night. A third marked a strong reaction to closing doors. No one had written a full mental health diagnosis then. Sean remembered the office more clearly than the man. Veterans arrived with forms from several departments. Appointments ran hours late. Staff measured attendance because attendance was easy to count. Rudy had accepted one referral. He came for the intake, completed 7 forms, and waited 3 hours. A follow-up was set for the next month. He never returned, and the file closed after standard notices. Cora asked whether that meant he chose not to get help. Sean was quiet for several seconds. Then he asked what Cora knew about the day Rudy disappeared. She gave him every small fact. Rudy left for what Leanne believed was a work trip. He took no suitcase, only his wallet and a jacket. His car was found near a bus station in Pennsylvania. No money was withdrawn from their account. Sean asked whether Rudy had known anyone near Newark. Cora said no. He asked whether Rudy later seemed to remember his old name. The unanswered letters did not exist yet, so Cora had no reply. Sean used a term she had never heard. Dissociative fugue could involve loss of past memory, identity, and unexpected travel away from home. Severe trauma or stress could be connected. It was uncommon, but it was documented. Cora pressed her thumb against Rudy's picture. The paper was still warm from the printer. Sean said the records could not prove a diagnosis alone, yet the pattern deserved a proper review. Her father may not have chosen to leave. The thought removed one pain and uncovered another. Cora had spent 15 years believing Rudy rejected them. Now his mind may have detached from his name and history. His body had simply kept moving after the connection failed. Sean explained that memory could return in pieces. Shame and fear could then block contact. A person might build a new identity around the blank space. That did not erase harm, but it changed intent. One question mattered to him. Had anything small disappeared with Rudy? People in confused states sometimes carried familiar objects without knowing why. Cora pictured the family album before Sean finished speaking. Her second-grade school picture had vanished that week. Leanne blamed loose glue and an old page. Cora had searched beneath every couch cushion. The blank square remained in the album for years. Cora stood so fast her knee struck the table. Connor looked up from his homework. She asked Sean whether a person could keep one thing while forgetting everything else. He said minds did not fail in neat lines. The mystery of why Rudy left finally had a possible answer. A larger question opened at once. If some part of him carried her picture, why had he never returned? 15 years still stood between cause and choice. Cora called Leanne before she could lose courage. Her mother answered while folding laundry. Cora said she had found Rudy. Then she corrected herself and said she had found what happened after he vanished. Leanne sat down hard enough that Cora heard the chair. She asked whether Rudy was alive. Cora said no. For a while, only the dryer sounded through the phone. Leanne did not cry first. She asked what name he had used and whether he had children. Cora told her about Leonardo, Mariam, and Sapphire. Each answer made the silence longer. When Cora explained the possible fugue, Leanne rejected it. She said Rudy had known their address and their phone number. Cora reminded her those facts may have disappeared. Leanne said a condition did not write 15 years of silence. Cora had no answer for that. She promised to bring the papers the next day. Leanne asked whether a funeral had already happened. Cora said it had stopped halfway because she stood up. After the call, Connor found the old album. He opened it to the empty school photo square. A line of dry glue marked the corners. He asked whether his grandfather had taken the picture because he knew he was leaving. Cora said she did not know. That answer had once felt like failure. Now it was the only honest thing she had. Connor closed the album and left it beside the letters that had not appeared yet. Reopening the old case was not quiet. The Veterans Office flagged a formal review the next morning. A caseworker contacted Mariam about medical records under Leonardo's identity. Mariam learned about a diagnosis her husband had never shared. Her attorney objected again. He said the review could harm the estate and delay insurance payments. The house mortgage, car title, and Sapphire's school records all rested on Leonardo's name. Mariam feared losing ordinary stability along with him. Cora understood the fear, but she would not close the file. She sent the attorney a timeline of every refusal. She included the old report number and both photographs. She also requested preservation of all wallet contents. The request mattered. Samir confirmed the hospital had delivered Leonardo's personal effects to Mariam. He had signed the transfer sheet. Cora asked whether a wallet had been listed, and Samir said yes. Mariam refused to discuss it through the attorney. She had not opened the sealed property bag. It remained inside a closet with his shoes and watch. Her delay could have been grief, fear, or both. Cora nearly sent another message. She typed that the wallet might contain the truth. Then she deleted it. Her first messages had turned a grieving girl into an enemy. This time, she let the request stand without pressure. At work, Cora repaired a blender that kept stopping under load. The motor was fine, but one loose contact broke the circuit. She bent the contact back and tested it 3 times. A hidden gap could make a working thing look dead. Kirsty watched from the next station. She said the store manager needed an answer about Cora's schedule. Cora asked for 2 unpaid days. Kirsty warned that unpaid time would hurt her rent payment. Cora accepted the risk. She had spent years letting closed doors set the limits. Now she knew records could be approached from the side. The answer existed in several systems, and she meant to connect them. Before leaving, she filed a correction with the newspaper. She gave no private medical details. She stated that Mariam and Sapphire had no known role in the identity change. The paper added 1 sentence at the bottom. It was not enough to stop the comments. Still, Mariam saw it. She sent Cora one message through Samir. It said, "I know you did not have to correct that." Cora read the line twice. It was not forgiveness. It was only proof that the closed door had moved. She put the phone down and waited to see what came through. The next afternoon, Mariam arrived at Cora's apartment without calling. She carried a brown shoebox against her coat. Samir waited near the curb in his car. Mariam had asked him to come, but not enter. Cora opened the door and stepped aside. Connor was at school, and the apartment was quiet. Mariam placed the box on the kitchen table. She said it came from the back of Leonardo's closet. The hospital property bag had led her there. His wallet held no old identification. Behind his insurance card, however, she found a small school photograph. The edges were soft from years of handling. Cora knew the blue shirt and uneven bangs. She had worn both in 2nd grade. The missing picture lay on Mariam's open palm. Neither woman reached for it at first. The photograph was warm from Mariam's hand. Mariam looked down. Her voice was almost gone. "He kept this behind everything else," she said. She did not explain further. Cora took the picture by its corners. Her own 8-year-old face looked serious and unsure. Rudy had carried it into the blank part of his life. He had kept it until the day he died. Mariam opened the shoebox. Inside were dozens of envelopes, none sealed. Everyone carried Cora's first and last name. Below that, Rudy had written Newark, New Jersey, without a street or zip code. The earliest letter was 15 years old. The paper had yellowed near the fold. It began with a sentence about not understanding what happened. Rudy wrote that he woke in a bus terminal with no name he trusted. He remembered a child before he remembered her face. Later, the photograph in his wallet told him more. He found the name Cora on the back. Still, no address returned with it. The letter described fear of going to police. Rudy believed he might have harmed someone by leaving. He also feared being called a liar. He signed only the letter R. Other letters followed across the years. Some attempted explanations, others stopped after 3 lines. One contained a phone number crossed out so hard the paper tore. Rudy wrote after Sapphire was born. He said holding a new baby had brought back Cora's small hand. He wanted to find her, then felt that searching would destroy the family beside him. Shame became his reason for waiting one more day. One more day became another year. The letters showed memory returning in pieces. A kitchen table came back before Leanne's face. Cora's laugh returned before their street name. He eventually remembered everything important. By then, Leonardo Holder had a wife, a daughter, a job, and legal records. Rudy feared losing both families by admitting either existed. He chose silence, though the first departure had not been chosen. Cora read until the words blurred. She did not excuse him. Illness explained the door opening, not every year after. The letters proved love and failure could occupy the same page. The newest letter was written 4 months earlier. It did not apologize. Rudy described a fixed faucet and Sapphire's choir audition. He mentioned buying the wrong cereal and returning for the right box. That ordinary Tuesday hurt more than the first letter. Cora had wanted proof of a dramatic hidden reason. Instead, her father had lived normal days while writing her name. He had known where the wall stood and never crossed it. Miriam said she had never seen the letters. Leonardo kept the closet key with his tools. She had believed the box held old tax papers. Her voice carried anger that did not need Cora as a target. Cora asked why Miriam brought them. Miriam looked toward the second-grade picture. She said Sapphire deserved the truth, even if it changed her father. Then she added that Cora deserved the same. Cora made coffee, but neither woman drank much. Miriam admitted she had wanted the burial completed before more questions came. Delay felt like strangers taking ownership of her husband. Now the letters made ownership seem like the wrong word. Before leaving, Miriam asked Cora to return the originals after copying them. Cora agreed without arguing. She did not ask for the wallet or the watch. Those belonged to the life she had not shared. Once the door closed, Cora called Sapphire. The first call went unanswered. She left no voice message. 10 minutes later, Sapphire called back from Miriam's phone. Cora apologized without defending herself. She said Sapphire had taken nothing from her. Rudy gave Sapphire 15 years Cora did not receive. Cora had been cruel over a loss Sapphire did not cause. Cora forced herself not to add an excuse. She let the silence remain open. "You didn't take anything from me," she said. "I aimed it at you because he wasn't here." Sapphire stayed silent. Cora heard a drawer close on the other end. The girl did not forgive her, but she did not hang up. That small choice kept the line open. Sapphire said her father hummed the same tune each night. There were no words. He used it when she was sick or worried. She hummed 4 plain notes into the phone. Cora's hand tightened around the second-grade picture. Rudy had hummed that tune in their old kitchen. He did it while washing dishes and checking homework. The memory had no words either. For the first time, the sisters shared something that was not a claim. Sapphire asked where the tune came from. Cora said she never knew. They let the question remain between them. If a man vanished because his mind broke, does that make the silence forgivable? Or does 15 years cost the same either way? Cora now knew both answers could be true. Explanation could arrive without repair. That evening, the attorney emailed a settlement proposal. The estate would remain under Leonardo Holder's name. A small share would go to Cora and Leanne. In return, all public comments and identity challenges would end. The reopened veterans file would also close absent further comment. That clause sat halfway down page 6. It did not mention wrongdoing. It treated the medical history as an inconvenience attached to the estate. Signing meant quick peace for 2 tired households. Miriam could settle the mortgage and insurance. Cora could cover rent after her unpaid days. The newspaper would lose its next story. Cora printed the form and placed it beside the letters. She read every clause twice. The money was not large, but it was useful. Useful things could still demand the wrong price. Connor came home and found her at the table. He set his backpack down carefully. The letters covered the place where he usually did homework. Cora gathered them into stacks, but he asked her not to. He read only the names on the envelopes. Then he looked at the unsigned settlement. Cora explained that signing could stop the calls and legal fight. She did not explain how much she wanted that silence. Connor picked up the school picture. One corner had bent inside the wallet. He flattened it with his thumb, then asked the question Cora had avoided. His voice stayed quiet. "Do you want to know what happened to him?" he asked. "Or do you want it to stop hurting?" Cora did not give him a brave answer. She said she did not know whether those were different things. The truth left no lesson for him to admire. It only kept her from pretending. Connor nodded and carried his backpack to his room. He left the photograph on the table. Cora sat until the kitchen light clicked off on its timer. The settlement stayed unsigned. In the morning, she called Sean first. She said the headstone name no longer mattered to her. She would not fight Mariam over the identity carved in stone. She wanted the missed appointment reviewed. Sean warned that a formal review might move slowly. It might also find only ordinary failures spread among many desks. Cora said ordinary failure was still worth naming. She did not want punishment. She wanted the record read correctly. The phrase "he did not return" made Rudy sound careless. Cora wanted the file to show 7 forms, 3 hours, and a delayed follow-up. A person in crisis had been asked to carry the whole process alone. The process should learn from that. Sean agreed to submit his old notes and a statement. He could open access, but he could not control the result. Cora understood. The next move still belonged to her. She called Mariam and offered terms instead of demands. Leonardo's name would remain on the headstone and estate. Cora would make no public identity challenge. The Veterans Review, however, had to remain open. Mariam asked whether the review threatened the house. Cora said Shan believed it could proceed separately. She sent written confirmation and offered to sign only that narrower agreement. Mariam asked for an hour. During that hour, Cora took Connor to school. They missed the usual bus and walked 6 blocks. He complained about a loose backpack strap. Cora tied it with a spare shoelace outside the front gate. Mariam called as the bell rang. She agreed. Her attorney would revise the papers. Then Mariam said Sapphire wanted to attend the rescheduled service, but only if Cora sat nearby. Cora said yes before fear could interfere. She returned home and copied the letters for Leanne. The printer fed 2 pages together and cut off a sentence. Cora separated them and started again. The service was set for the following morning. No one contacted the reporter. Samir reopened the smaller chapel and reduced the flowers. 2 families received the same start time and the same row. Cora arrived with Connor and Leanne. Mariam and Sapphire were already seated. No one embraced. Sapphire shifted 1 place over, leaving room beside her. The pastor spoke about a life known in parts. He avoided choosing one name until the final prayer. When he asked whether anyone wished to speak, no hand rose. The quiet held because everyone feared saying the wrong truth. Cora had prepared nothing. Her notes remained folded inside her purse. Still, her knees straightened before she decided. She stood as suddenly as she had at the first service. Cora walked toward the front with no written speech. Her shoes sounded too loud on the narrow aisle. She stopped beside the same photograph that had exposed everything. This time, nobody turned away from her. She looked first at the name under the picture. Leonardo Holder remained printed in black letters. Rudy Padilla existed only in the papers inside her purse. Cora placed both hands against the lectern. Cora looked at both families. My father had 2 names, she said. Rudy Padilla was the first. Leonardo Holder was the name most people here knew. The pastor stepped back. Samir stood near the chapel doors. Leanne watched from one side of Connor, while Mariam watched from the other row. Sapphire held no tissue this time. I did not know the man in this casket. I knew my father before something in his mind failed under trauma. He returned from deployment with shaking hands, poor sleep, and fear he could not explain. No one had taught him how to carry it. He went once for help. 7 forms waited on the desk. 3 hours passed before the intake ended. The follow-up was placed a month away, and Rudy never returned. She kept her eyes on the front row. Nobody interrupted her. He didn't come back to that office, Cora said. He didn't come back to us. She paused because the next words needed care. Illness had not made every later choice for him. His letters showed that memory returned. Shame, fear, and delay had then done their own damage. Cora took the second-grade picture from her purse. She did not raise it high, she only held it where the front row could see. The crease in one corner caught under her thumb. Cora turned the picture once in her fingers. "He never stopped loving us?" she said. "His wallet held my photograph until he died. He wrote to me for 15 years, but he never mailed one letter." No one shifted in the pews. Cora looked at Sapphire. The girl's face tightened, though her gaze stayed steady. Miriam placed one hand on her daughter's arm. "Love does not cancel silence. A medical reason does not return birthdays. Understanding why someone failed is not pretending nobody paid. Both families paid in different ways." Then she spoke the line that had brought her forward. It was not aimed at Miriam or Sapphire. It was aimed at the record that had reduced Rudy to a missed visit. Cora's voice did not rise. "He gave you 15 years I never got, and that is not a betrayal I can hold against a 16-year-old. Sapphire lowered her eyes. Cora waited until she looked back. The photograph remained steady in Cora's hand. She finished without asking the room to forgive anyone. It is the cost of sending people home before we finish helping them come home. Silence followed. It was not the shocked silence from the first chapel. Nobody was recalculating a stranger's claim. They were allowing 2 true names to remain in the same room. Cora said verified identity and medical reviews mattered because real families depended on careful records. A process could protect people when facts were checked independently. It failed only when warning signs became boxes that nobody opened. Rudy's file had to be opened now. She turned toward Miriam and Sapphire. She said Leonardo had fixed faucets, attended choir nights, and bought the wrong cereal. Those details belonged to them. Cora would not take them to make Rudy's earlier life seem larger. Miriam nodded once. Sapphire reached into her coat pocket and removed a folded page. It was a copy of Rudy's newest letter. She had brought it without telling anyone. Cora ended with no lesson about easy forgiveness. She said the man had been loved under both names. He had also caused harm under both names. The honest farewell had room for all of it. She returned to her seat. No one applauded, which was right. The pastor waited before continuing. Samir quietly lowered the recorded music. Sapphire moved her hand onto the space between them. Cora looked at it but did not take it at once. After several seconds, she placed her own hand beside it. Their fingers touched without closing. The service continued under Leonardo Holder's name. Rudy Padilla was spoken during the final prayer. Leanne cried only when the casket began moving. Connor passed her a clean tissue from his pocket. At the cemetery, Cora stood beside Miriam rather than behind her. The headstone marker had not arrived yet. A temporary card showed Leonardo's name and dates. Cora did not ask for a second card. Afterward, relatives gathered near parked cars. Some approached Cora and introduced themselves. They offered stories about Leonardo at work, church meals, and school events. Cora listened without collecting them as proof. One man said Leonardo never discussed his childhood. A woman remembered that he avoided buses. Neither detail solved anything. Still, they made the second life less like an empty space. Leanne left early. She said she needed to sit somewhere without flowers. Cora let her go alone. Her mother had received an answer, but not the answer she had wanted. Sean filed the review request that afternoon. Cora added the letters, the original intake copies, and her timeline. Miriam signed a statement about the wallet photograph. Sapphire provided only the tune and letters she had seen. The review office asked whether Cora sought money. She checked no. It asked whether she wanted a record correction. She checked yes, then wrote that the correction concerned care history, not the headstone name. 3 weeks passed before the first response. During that time, Cora returned to full shifts. The store manager gave her a warning for attendance. Kirsty covered one late pickup without pretending it was no trouble. Cora repaid her with 2 Saturday shifts. She also repaired Connor's backpack strap properly. The shoelace had held longer than expected. Connor said the repair looked boring, which meant he approved. Miriam handled the estate papers under Leonardo's name. The revised agreement separated them from the medical review. Cora and Leanne received a modest share. It covered bills, copies, and several months of counseling. There was no headline amount. Nobody became wealthy. Cora used the first payment to catch up on rent. Then she scheduled an appointment with a grief counselor and almost canceled it twice. On the day of the appointment, Connor missed his bus. Cora drove him to school before going. The delay gave her an excuse to skip the session. She parked outside the office and stayed in the car anyway. She watched other people enter with folders and coffee. At the last minute, she went inside. The first session did not heal 15 years. It taught her that a missing answer could shape choices long after the search stopped. Sapphire began texting from her own phone. The messages were careful and ordinary. She asked whether Rudy had liked tomato soup. Cora said he added too much pepper, and Sapphire replied that Leonardo did too. They did not call each other sisters. That word felt like a promise neither could make yet. They were two people comparing the edges of one man. Sometimes an answer matched, and sometimes it did not. Sapphire sent a recording of the 4-note tune. Cora played it once, then saved it. She did not make it her ringtone or share it. Some proof did not need a public job. The formal review arrived in writing during the 4th week. It confirmed a mental health referral had been flagged but never fully actioned. The follow-up was missed. The case then closed through administrative steps rather than a clinical decision. The letter did not claim the office caused Rudy's fugue. It did not diagnose him after death with certainty. It stated that his warning signs deserved further review and outreach. Those steps had not occurred. Sean called after Cora read it. He said the finding would enter an internal audit of similar old files. He had requested review of cases closed after missed mental health follow-ups. The office accepted the request. That result changed nothing for Rudy. It did not restore his name, years, or choices. It did change the sentence attached to his file. He had not simply failed to return. Cora asked whether the audit would help anyone. Sean said he could not promise outcomes. He could promise that the pattern would be seen by people with authority to change procedures. Cora said seeing it was the first required step. She sent the finding to Miriam before telling the reporter. Then she chose not to tell the reporter at all. Public pressure had opened one door, but it had also hurt Sapphire. The official record now carried the fact where it belonged. Miriam replied that Leonardo would have hated the attention. Cora wrote that Rudy had hated forms. They both paused over the strange use of 2 names. Miriam finally answered that both things could be true. Leanne read the review at Cora's table. She traced Rudy's original signature at the bottom of the intake page. Her finger stopped where the pen had shaken. She said she wished he had called once memory returned. Cora wished the same. Neither woman offered forgiveness for the other. Rudy was dead, and no explanation could perform his apology. The empty years remained empty. Leanne took copies of 3 letters. Not all of them. She chose one from the 1st year, one from the 7th, and the final ordinary Tuesday. Before leaving, she placed the birthday photo back into Cora's album. The school picture stayed with Cora. The old blank square was filled again. Its corners no longer matched the dried glue. Cora did not press it flat. The where was part of where it had been. That night, Connor asked whether the case was over. Cora said the estate was settled and the review was open. He considered that answer while packing his lunch. Then he asked whether open could still mean finished enough. Cora said sometimes it had to. Connor put an apple into his bag, then replaced it with chips. The choice had nothing to do with Rudy. Cora was relieved to let one moment stay ordinary. A month after the service, Connor brought home a family tree project. The worksheet had boxes for parents and grandparents. Similar assignments had always made Cora tense. One branch seemed to ask for a story she could not prove. This time, Connor did not ask what to write. He worked at the kitchen table while Cora folded store uniforms. His pencil moved between the papers and the old album. He erased only once. Cora noticed the project but did not lean over him. She had spent years filling every silence before he questioned it. Now she let him decide what belonged there. The choice felt harder than correcting a date. 2 days later, he showed her the finished pages. They were already stapled and ready to submit. Rudy Padilla's name filled the blank branch. Leonardo Holder appeared in a note beside it. Connor included birth and death dates from the records. In the final box, he had written one sentence himself. His letters were large and pressed deep into the paper. Cora read them without touching the page. The note read, "Got sick in a way no one helped him with. Never stopped thinking about my mom." Cora read it twice. The pencil marks pressed through the paper. The sentence was not complete history. It did not mention the letters he failed to mail. It left out Mariam, Sapphire, and the later choices. Still, it carried what Connor needed to understand. Cora did not correct one word. She handed the project back and asked whether he needed a ride. Connor said the bus was fine. Then he tucked the pages between two books so they would not bend. At school, his teacher later wrote good research beside the family tree. Connor did not bring the comment up. He placed the project in a drawer with old report cards. Cora let it stay there without framing it. Life did not become simple afterward. Counseling appointments cost time even when money covered them. Mariam sometimes stopped replying for days. Sapphire once asked a question about Rudy's first family, then withdrew it. Cora also made mistakes. She sent Sapphire an old photograph without warning, and the girl went quiet. Cora apologized and asked before sending another. Their connection grew through corrections, not perfect care. Sapphire shared stories in the same uneven way. Leonardo had taught her to drive in an empty school lot. He gripped the door handle through every turn. Cora remembered Rudy doing the same when Leanne drove. Some details joined the two lives, others remained separate. Leonardo loved choir concerts, while Rudy avoided crowded rooms. Cora stopped trying to force every difference into one explanation. The Veterans Review stayed open. Sean sent one brief update about the audit, then no more. Cora did not call every week. She had learned that persistence and constant pressure were not always the same thing. She kept a copy of the finding in a blue folder. The folder sat beside Connor's emergency forms. For the first time, she filled in Leanne's number without staring at the grandparent line. One blank had lost its power. On the next school morning, Connor forgot his lunch on the counter. Cora noticed after reaching the repair shop and drove it back during her break. He met her at the office door, embarrassed but hungry. Neither mentioned that she once forgot him at practice during the worst week of the case. The returned lunch was not an apology, yet both understood why she had come. Months later, Cora drove to the cemetery on a quiet afternoon. The permanent headstone had been placed. It carried Leonardo Holder's name, the one two families agreed to share. Rudy Padilla was not carved into the stone. Cora no longer saw that as erasure. The review held his first name where records could explain it. The letters held it in his own hand. Stone did not need to carry every truth. Sapphire was already sitting near the grave. Two paper coffee cups rested beside her. One was unopened and cooling for whoever arrived. She lifted it when Cora approached. "Thought you might come today," Sapphire said. The cup was still warm against Cora's palm. They sat on the low bench without discussing the case. Sapphire complained about a history test. Cora described a customer who brought in a toaster without its cord. Their talk wandered through things that did not need solving. After a while, both looked toward the name on the stone. Neither said the other name aloud. The silence was no longer a fight over ownership. It was simply space they could share. Sapphire tapped 4 notes against her cup lid. Cora recognized the rhythm at once. She did not hum along. Knowing they could was enough for that day. Cora had been offered an easier ending. She could have signed the first settlement, protected the recorded name, and let the medical file close. By Monday, the calls might have stopped. The grief might have looked simpler from outside. Instead, she asked a retired counselor to keep open a file that had already consumed one visible life. She did not know whether it would bring answers or only more pain. Her choice did both. It also changed the official record. Dissociative fugue is a documented condition involving memory loss and travel away from a person's usual life, often connected with severe stress or trauma. It may explain an absence, but it cannot return the time lost. Understanding is not the same as excusing. Sometimes it is the first honest step.
One open file finally carried both names. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to Malric Coleman for more hard-earned justice.